The week 0 thing quickly before we get in these week 1 matchups.
The week what?
Great answer.
It's not
Great
a thing.
answer. No, but seriously, if you go back, let's pull that up real quick. Let me show you because, listen, ESPN, these other places, they'll plug it as the week 0 matchups. But when you really look into the fine print, let's pull it up one more time. Because man, look, what's different in week 1 and week 2? I don't know. Week 1 is 9 days.
It goes for 9 days.
August 24th to September 2nd. I can't remember who invented the calendar, but I'm sure Galileo didn't have that one written down as a 9. So you go from August 24th to September 2nd in week 1, which you know what? I'm fine with. I think week 1 should be on the 24th, and then week 2 should be what we're about to talk about. But that's here nor there. But then you go week 2, September 3rd to the 7th. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. Week 3, September 8th to the 14th. That's just a normal week. Beatles song, right? 7 days a week, not 9, David. So I want to get that out there as indisputable proof now. And it does matter. All right, it does matter.
My bigger worry is that it'll never stop because there's always going to be programs who say, hey, let's play a week early so we can get all the eyeballs on TV all to ourselves. Pretty soon they're going to be playing in July. Will they call on that week -4?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll start going in I'll have to get on my calculator and type in tangent.
Hey, it's a good matchup. I'll watch
like that. I will say, playing super early like that, it does build you in an extra bye. So I think that's the best part about doing it.
But aren't we going to have 2 buys for all teams now anyway?
That's the way it's going. Well, that's why I'm interested to see now that they've added games to the playoff. Obviously, there's more teams making the playoff. There's more games you're adding in the playoff. Are they going to cut a game from the regular season and go back to the old 11-game regular season schedule? Because the more teams that go into conferences, the more conference games you have to play. So they're either going to have to do one of 2 things. We get to conferences that have 24, 30 teams in it, 32 teams. We're going to have to go back to that COVID schedule where you're playing all conference games, maybe for those 12 regular season games, which I don't mind, but I would not be shocked if they knocked it back to 11 because all we hear about is player safety and how important that is to them. I don't know on one hand how you can talk about player safety and then add not only more postseason games, but keep the same amount of regular season games. I don't know if that adds up. They're not going to add regular season games to the schedule. But, David, whether you call it week 1, whether you call it week 0, whether you call it a hippopotamus wearing a bow tie, we got some great matchups in this first week. What is the best matchup you're looking at when you look at that week 1?
Oh, you want my top matchups already?
I want your top match. I want not just your top matchups. I want you to give me your top matchup. Right now, looking at it, before we get to a fall camp, we know what's going on, during the summer. We know the transfer portal window is closed, but is it really ever closed?
Look,
who knows?
I'm not going to lie here. I'm really excited to watch this Georgia-Clemson matchup for a couple of reasons here. I think Georgia has put together the type of team that can not just win the national championship, but, maybe be one of those types of teams that we're talking about for a long time. And if they won the Natty, that'd be 3 out of the last 4 years. I think Kirby Smart's already got a chip on those guys' shoulders for not making the college football playoff last year with a 3rd straight team that had a chance to win the national championship. And I think that at the end of the year, they could have the Heisman Trophy winner on their team too. I think Carson Beck's that good.
Yeah, if you're Clemson, you get a shot at what I think is one of the top 2 rosters in college football heading into the year. You look at Georgia, you look at Ohio State. Those are my top 2 in that order. But And you want to play against the big dogs, right? You want to come out and try and make a statement, hey, we're back to national championship relevance. But I just feel like this may be the ass beating of a lifetime.
And it could be. And if it is, then we still gain a lot of information on both sides because all of the great things we said about Kirby Smart the last couple seasons, that'll prove to be true. And all of the kind of the trepidations that we've been saying about Dabo Swinney, even yesterday, the reluctance to use the transfer portal and sort of to adopt to a new age, then that'll come to light too. But also, what if it ends up being close? What if it ends up just even being a close game? I mean, we're only 2 years removed from Clemson playing Georgia in a 10-3 matchup in the opener that was also in Atlanta, and that was the year that Georgia won that first national championship under Kirby. What if Cade Klubnik does take that next step under Garrett Riley, the offensive coordinator? What if he has grown and he ends up being the difference maker that Clemson does need? I mean, Clemson's still double-digit win-type team almost every year for the past 13 years.
Well, if you can do it against Georgia, you can do it against anybody. And obviously, Cade's a big question mark on whether he can elevate to that next step. Garrett Riley, being a better play caller inside the red zone, inside the green zone, putting him in a better situation. But it goes back to what we talked about yesterday. the skill position at Clemson around Cade Klubnik, I don't know if they're good enough to go up against this Georgia defense, which we know is littered with NFL players, and to be able to consistently make plays that can keep their defense off the field, because we know Georgia's added pieces at the skill position. They're really, really talented up front. They've turned that thing into a machine. I will say yesterday, talking about the Dabo Swinney and transfer portal thing, it was funny. Most Clemson fans on social media, when I put it out there, really agreed with kind of the, what they obviously hope it doesn't go down like that, but they're worried that they're heading for that iceberg. I had some, they're like, oh, this take is old and shallow, which I find kind of baffling because the transfer portal really is new. I don't consider how you could make this argument old when we just had this, not resurgence, but surge of a transfer portal. I think that's just some Clemson fans trying to make themselves feel better. And again, I'm rooting for Dabo. I hope he does well, but I feel like you're headed for the iceberg. And that's not just Georgia week 1. It's going to be interesting to see down the stretch. I'm going to go LSU versus USC, and I've decided to coin this the Battle for Balance Bowl. Mm-hmm. That's what it seems to be. Because again, LSU and USC, 2 teams offensively, even though LSU's replacing Jaden Daniels is number 2 pick overall. Garrett Nussmeier is a guy who has a ton of experience. He's going to be able to step in there, not be overwhelmed. And their offensive line, they have 2 NFL tackles, one of the top 5 offensive lines in the country to me. Defensively is the question for LSU, facing a USC offense that we know is going to be competent because Lincoln Riley's the coach. Miller Moss showed us something in the bowl game. But David, I'm more to the point now where I'm going to take the over in this game. I really don't care what the number is. But I sit here and think, maybe if LSU does come out and look good on defense, will that be more about LSU is back defensively somewhat? Not saying they have to be elite. Or could it be a little bit of fool's gold? Because USC has had some waffling up front. There are some question marks there. I like LSU early in this game, and I think it is the perfect situation to be able to come out and make a statement against a huge brand in USC, right, that is going through a transitory period with a new defensive coordinator coming in week 1. Hey, congrats, you get LSU, which we know how talented they are. But whoever comes out of this, if one team can look balanced, you talk about a trajectory going forward throughout the year that can flip a narrative. Hey, USC comes out, looks good on defense. This is a new era. We got rid of Alex Grinch. We're moving past that. We're a more balanced, complete team. And then you look at LSU, it's the same thing. They come out, hammer USC offensively, score a bunch of points, look competent defensively, get after your ass against the run, play fast, play physical. Could we have LSU trying to turn back into themselves a little bit? So the Battle for Balance Bowl, that's the one I look at because I think that's a true trajectory changer, and I think it could end up being a track meet. There's no way.
Also, we got to tip the cap to LSU for playing these marquee matchups
in Vegas.
Week 1 these past couple years. This was going to be in Vegas. Traditionally, I don't love the neutral site games, but USC and LSU matching up together in Las Vegas is awesome. But not just this year. They've opened with Florida State the past couple years, and this is going to be another Sunday night game. Like we live streamed the one last year when they played Florida State on Sunday night. So big shout out to LSU for playing these marquee matchups in week 1. The next one I'll go with is Miami at Florida. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks with Florida fans calling in. Look, I think Miami has a great opportunity to win the ACC this year. I know some people think Mario Cristobal is on the hot seat. I really don't. The not taking a knee thing last year against Georgia Tech is baffling, and I know he did it another time at Oregon, but I really just think it's going to be a minor stepping stone in what's going to be a great career at Miami, where he played college football. And this Cam Ward kid could just flat out play football. He's a great quarterback. So to be able to get him out of the transfer portal, to convince him not to go into the NFL, where I do think he would have been drafted, but you're going on the road to the swamp. No one ever wants to go on the road and play in the swamp. And I just think that these kids at Florida and Billy Napier, all they've been hearing is how tough their schedule is and how Florida's going to win 3 games again. And I think they're going to come out just wanting to make a statement. It's going to be a great football game.
Well, if you're a Florida fan, year 3 under Billy Napier, you don't want to come out and play Florida A&M. You want to know, hey, has some stuff been fixed? And a lot of it is organizational. That's what I've been saying. It's not just that Florida is losing, which is not acceptable at a place like Florida, and we know their tradition and how much success they've had in the past and how they view themselves, and they should view themselves that way. But it's the disorganization of how you're losing. Sending 2 guys out there with the same number on punt return, 4th and 4 against Utah on a drive where you just stopped them. All the procedural penalties that we saw last year. Guys not lining up right. The little things, busted coverages. Can you clean it up to where at the end of the day you give yourself a chance? You're not beating yourself. If you're going to lose, it's the other team that's beating you. But all we're going to hear about, and I believe that the kudos are deserved and the flowers are deserved for this Miami team because they're damn good up front. You know they're going to be good on defense. And Cam Ward, to me, is a much better quarterback than what they've had here in the past, including Tyler Van Dyke, who's now at Wisconsin. But if you're Florida, you get a chance at home against a rival, week 1, a team that's going to be ranked, a team that's going to be very, very highly thought of, to be able to go kick their ass and send a message to the whole college football world that, hey, you poked the bear, now you pissed us off, and it puts you, again, we talked about trajectory a second ago, it obviously steers the ship in the right direction, and Florida needs positivity right now.
Yep.
They need a ton of positivity. And if you're Miami, you go and win that game, you beat an SEC team on the road. Look what that did for Florida State. Look at how that boosted Florida State throughout the rest of the year, beating an SEC team early. Hey, look at us. Yeah, we may be in the ACC. Yeah, Florida State may have got left out after going 13-0, but this Miami team's for real, and that'd be a quality win. So I do want to say, before we move to the sneaky matchups, I like how people are like, oh man, Gainesville, it's going to be unbelievably hot. Against Utah, you're right. It was a factor. I was watching their DBs throw up Gatorade halfway through the first quarter. Problem with this game is you're playing Miami, which is even hotter down there. So it's not like there's going to be a huge weather advantage or a humidity advantage like we saw Florida-Utah when they played at the Swamp, when Florida was able to win in the last second when Cam Rising turned that ball over right there at the goal line. So I do want to move on, though. Notre Dame and A&M quickly at Kyle Field is another one I just had to put in there.
That's where College Game Day is going.
That's where College Game Day is going. I think this is going to be the absolute inverse of what we get from LSU and USC. This may be the most, as monstrous as Georgia and Clemson are running around hitting each other, this is the game I feel like maybe the most physical game of all of week 1. You've got Mike Elko and Texas A&M trying to get back to the gritty bar fight. Let's get physical. Let's get down and dirty. It's not just Pretty Boy Floyd. It's not just Titty Boy the City Boy. We're trying to go out here and knock your teeth through the back of your throat against a Notre Dame team that's led by Marcus Freeman, right, who you know is going to be physical on defense. Yes, they added Riley Leonard. Yes, Texas A&M has Connor Wegman. But, God, this just smells like a 12 personnel, run it, play action, boot, throw it when you have to, be solid on special teams, make field goals. It just smells like a 20-17 game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
absolutely
that one's going to be a fun one. And College Game Day did announce that that's where they're going. So,
which I like that. I don't mind that at all because I think they think Georgia's going to beat Clemson to death. This reminds me of old Bama. Hey, Bama's playing Florida State. Florida State's ranked number 3. Why is DeAndre Francois getting picked up in pieces around the field and now having to play in the USFL?
It's funny you say that. My wife's in the chat. She says, I think Georgia is going to kill Clemson week 1, which is why it's the early slate.
I don't think that's crazy at all.
And College Game Day, I think, recognizes that there's going to be more opportunities to visit Georgia later in the season.
For sure.
Plus Notre Dame, Texas A&M, at Kyle Field, marquee matchup.
At Kyle Field's a big deal.
We hadn't seen that, we hadn't seen them go there. Like, that's going to be awesome. Sneaky matchups, Penn State at West Virginia. Anytime Penn State and West Virginia play.
They're a 12-point favorite on the road at West Virginia.
I mean, West Virginia last year, where'd they go? 9-6 last year. Hold on one second.
Well, Neil Brown got a facelift.
No, 9-4, 6-3 in conference, but 9-4 overall, overperformed all of our expectations.
We thought he was going to get fired after.
I mean, he was definitely on the hot seat. Goes out, wins 9 games. Now you're going to host Penn State, and we've already had questions about Drew Aller. Hey, when Drew Aller takes 3 and a hitch and throws the post, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, that's an NFL player. He clearly can make all the throws. But he doesn't do that consistently enough, or at least in year 1. Look, the kid needs time to grow. Didn't do that consistently enough in year 1 for us to say, hey, this guy's going to be the heir apparent to be, the go-to quarterback at Penn State moving forward and carry the mantle to that national championship, which obviously James Franklin, that's the next step for him, to be able to win a national championship there. So anytime Penn State and West Virginia play, I'm all eyes, and this one's going to be in Morgantown as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Garrett Green, one of my favorite young quarterbacks in the country at West Virginia, really came on last year. It's a great fit for what Neil Brown wants to do offensively at West Virginia. They get him at home. I think Penn State's a 12.5-point favorite. I love West Virginia to cover it. I can tell you right now, I went ahead and put some money on West Virginia plus 12.5 at home after we talked about it with a caller the other day. But if you're Penn State, I can understand why Penn State fans are worried. This just feels like Christian Hackenberg 2.0 with Drew Aller. A lot of hype. Unbelievable build for a quarterback, looks how you want to look, but at the end of the day doesn't meet the expectation or doesn't meet the standard of what they thought he was going to be when they brought him in. Now, last year, I think a lot of that had to do with the offensive system. I don't think they were able to develop a lot of in-game chemistry. You could see that in the big games they played. Drew looked unbelievably uncomfortable in the pocket. It didn't seem like there was a great rapport with him and the wide receivers, and that's why James Franklin made a change at offensive coordinator. And I liked what I saw in the bowl game. It looked like a little bit of a different flavor ice cream. Listen, I'm all for some good vanilla ice cream. But you know what? It's not bad if you're an offense or you're a football team to be Neapolitan. Give me a little bit of vanilla. Give me a little bit of chocolate. Give me a little bit of strawberry. We always say the best tility outside of fertility is versatility, and Penn State did not have that last year. That's why they weren't able to get over the hump against Michigan and Ohio State, because they weren't able to throw the ball down the field. It's just the truth. Absolute truth. But my sneakiest, some people will say North Dakota State, Colorado. And I get that. I think there's a decent chance North Dakota State goes in there and wins, because I think it's exactly the opposite of what Colorado wants to face. A heavy personnel, we're going to run power, we're going to run ISO, we're going to play a game of let's find out who you are in the middle, and that's really not what Colorado wants to do. That's not their strength. They'd rather spit it out. They'd rather turn it into a track meet. But my sneakiest is the back-to-back FCS champions, South Dakota State, going to play Oklahoma State in Stillwater week 1. South Dakota State did lose a decent amount off the team from that won it last year in the FCS. But they returned their quarterback. He looked good in the spring. I know they're going to reload up front. I've been up there. I understand the Siberian cave trolls that them and North Dakota State roll out there. And Oklahoma State isn't sneaking up on anybody this year. Ollie Gordon is not sneaking up on anybody this year. And I know Alan Bowman's played college football for 35 years, and he's coming back. He's been a little bit up or down. But South Dakota State's name is not super sexy because it's not North Dakota State and hadn't been battered into our heads over and over and over again that this is the top FCS team. North Dakota State is not. They are not. It is South Dakota State. And when they roll in there, they are not going to be afraid. And I'm wondering, because if you go back and look, Oklahoma State won a lot of close games last year. They caught a lot of breaks. Ollie Gordon didn't catch fire till after the first 3 games when they started playing him. But remember, Chuba Hubbard went off that one year, and then the next year they held him like 625 yards because they knew what was coming. Like they knew what Mike Gundy wanted to do. So I keep your eye on this one. I'm not calling for the upset yet, but I've got my eye on this one because everybody's going to be talking North Dakota State and Colorado, and it's like that 12-5 matchup that they're always talking about. There's 2 12-5 seeds they always talk about in the college basketball tournament. Oh, this 12 is going to beat this 5. Oh, this 12 is going to beat this 5. Well, all that 5 hears about all week is how they're going to get upset, and it ends up being the other 12-5 upsets that end up happening. So watch out for that one on week 1. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Do us a favor. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. All right? Thanks. We appreciate you. L stands for love. We all know that.